Hey, what's up, everybody? JayC here with another live stream. And I know it's been a while since I've done a live stream. In fact, I think this is the first live stream I've done for January, last day of the month, but squeezing one in here on January. But it's been kind of a crazy month, just everywhere. The world's been kind of crazy. So um, it's just been kind of hard to do. I don't know. It's kind of hard to do a live stream when there's just so much crazy things going on in the world. Last week I was going to try and do one, but it was my wife's birthday and I ended up not being able to squeeze one in. I've thought about doing one like in the middle of the week, but it gets really hard to do them in the middle of the week because you have to do them kind of late for people to be able to watch, and it's just kind of harder for me. So I prefer kind of the weekend time slots. And of course, no football this weekend because Super Bowl's not till next weekend. So I thought it was a good time to jump in and do one. Plus, there's just a lot to talk about with the whole overall state of the industry, and a bunch of tons of reveals and things like that. Let's see who's here. And my computer, I don't know, it's kind of bogging down, it seems like. So if there's delay or it's choppy, I apologize. Um, I don't know what's going on there, but and I don't know if it's affecting it on your end, but like on mine, it feels like it's kind of choppy there. Brock says some lag, but sounds good. Okay, good. As long as you can hear me, that's really all that matters. What's up, Blake? Blake's in the house. Leb, he's in the house. Toy Bandit, Oscar's in the house. Jesse, Jeff, welcome everybody. I know I sprung this one, only gave you guys about an hour. Every time I try and okay, I'm gonna post about it like early in the day or something, or give like a try and give like a huge advance notice on these things. Something always ends up coming up, and then I end up having to cancel. So, sorry for the late notice, but thanks for everybody joining in. So I'm going to kind of let you guys steer the conversation. I want to hear from you guys. What's on your mind? What do you want to talk about? Like I said, there's been a lot of reveals just this past week. Super 7's been rolling out a ton of announcements. Silverhawks, they have officially announced that they are doing Silverhawks figures, both Ultimates and Reaction. So the 7-inch figures and the 3 3/4 inch ones. So I know a lot of people have been waiting for that. What's up, Oscar? Jerry, what's up, man? Says buffering. Yeah, I think it's my. I don't know. Actually, let me try. See if this. Did I just go silent for like a really long time? My mic came unplugged. Actually, I unplugged the wrong thing, trying to speed things up. I I don't know if you guys like all that I just said a few minutes ago. If you guys couldn't hear me, but hopefully, I think you should be able to hear me now. Actually, I'll check. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Looks like you can hear me now. So sorry about that if I went silent there for a bit. I was trying to I unplugged the other camera that I have set up in the review station to see if that sped things up, but I accidentally unplugged the mic instead of the camera, so. But anyway, what I was saying is it's definitely getting harder to collect some things. You know, NECA stuff is getting easier, I think, a little bit easier. It's not great, but it is getting easier. Um, and so, but you know, like GI Joe, the GI Joe classified target stuff. I know those are still very difficult to get. A lot of people, you know, have missed out, and yes, they're probably, you know, going to get more of the Vipers and the Fireflies at Target, but who knows when, who knows how many. um, and obviously, I mean, one of the things is people just don't like to wait. When you see all your buddies on social media getting a figure or what have you, and you're sitting there without it, you know, it definitely can be frustrating. See, let's see. Frozen, but Frozen 2 was better. Okay, Blake, I'm not sure how we got on talking about Frozen. Oh, I see you guys are talking about the Snake Eyes, the Fortnite Snake Eyes. So I ended up, I thought, so first of all, with the Fortnite Snake Eyes, and for those of you who maybe aren't familiar, we'll go down here. So Hasbro yesterday, late yesterday, kind of a surprise, announced that they are offering this Fortnite version of Snake Eyes. So actually, let me get it better in the screen here. So you can see here, it is just a GI Joe classified Snake Eyes repainted, but I do like this look for Snake Eyes. It's probably is the best of the three that they've done so far. You know, I like the silver on the visor, and he's got some light gray down here on his legs and stuff. He's got the little modern GI Joe symbol there on his shoulder. But this is based on basically GI Joe characters are going to be appearing in the Fortnite game, and instead of like Jazzwares or McFarlane, who actually have the Fortnite license, Hasbro must have gotten permission to do this one for, you know, Snake Eyes. So you get some fancy packaging there, and then you get a bunch of accessories that mostly are Fortnite, you know, from the video game, kind of goofy looking. However, I like this gun, this machine gun here at the top. I actually think that's pretty cool. It's one of the nicest looking weapon accessories that we've seen in the classified line. I also like this one, this grenade launcher, which I think will go well with Gung Ho. So I do think this figure costs $40 on Hasbro's Pulse website, and of course, you also, unless you have the membership thing or whatever, you got to pay for shipping. So it almost comes up to $50, and that to me is definitely, this figure's not worth that. I mean, I'm sure it's a limited run, production run, and I'm sure there's licensing fees that have to be paid for the Fortnite and all that. So I'm not saying the price is not unjustified from a production standpoint, but just from a personal purchasing standpoint, $40 is kind of hard to swallow. But at the end of the day, I did break down. I feel a little bit like a sucker, but I decided to go on and get it because I do like those weapons, and I do think it's the nicest looking Snake Eyes that they've done so far. All right, I just want to make sure before we go on. Can you guys hear me and see the screen? Is everything fairly working well? Of course, I know there's a delay between when I talk and you guys answer. Michael, the reason for Fortnite having other characters appear in the franchise is marketing. So it's hopefully going to encourage you if you're a G.I. Joe fan but weren't otherwise playing Fortnite. Now that G.I. Joe characters are appearing in it, you're going to have more incentive to want to go play that game. And there's been a ton of characters. There's been Marvel characters. There's been, I mean, even things, silly things like Predator and stuff, I think have been appearing in the game. So seems like Fortnite's opened it up to pretty much anyone being able to enter the game. But that's the reason why. It's marketing. It's trying to entice you to play the game and get into it when you might not have otherwise done so. Yeah, the Snake Eyes figure isn't actually going to be released for a year, next January 2022. And I think it's still available on the Hasbro Pulse website. I haven't checked today, but I believe it is still available. Like I said, I would not say it's worth from the collector standpoint. Again, not to talk about production value and everything. I'm just saying from a collector standpoint, it's hard to justify paying over double what a normal classified figure costs. But I do think it is probably the best looking Snake Eyes that Hasbro's done. And while most of the accessories are kind of goofy for Fortnite, I do like those two machine guns. I think the thing that stands out the most on this figure is that silver visor. I think that's really kind of makes the difference. I think it might be a totally new head sculpt. Just looking up close at it struck me as being I don't remember this detail. I'd have to go pull down my regular classified Snake Eyes, but I don't remember this detail being on the bottom here under the visor. Maybe it is, but I think this might be a whole new head sculpt. But I really like the silver that stands out there. And then again, I do like this kind of symbol on his, this is from the movies basically. So I do kind of like that symbol. I mean, there are minor differences, but I do think it helps improve the overall look of the character. I kind of feel justified in getting this one because I did not get the first exclusive Hasbro Pulse exclusive because I didn't like the legs on that one. The only thing I liked about that first Hasbro Pulse exclusive Snake Eyes was that it came with the Uzi, but I was able to find an Uzi, without having to pay so much for a figure. So between the first Snake Eyes they did as a Pulse exclusive and the regular release, I like the regular release better. But I do think this one actually looks a little bit better. However, we're going to get more Snake Eyes figures in this line. Snake Eyes is going to be, G.I. Joe's version of Spider-Man and Iron Man. So, especially with the movie and everything, there's going to be plenty of Snake Eyes figures to be had in this line. Chris, do I think Super 7 might do G.I. Joe Ultimates? Well, had you asked me a week ago, I would have said not a chance in hell. But being that Hasbro's letting Super 7 do Power Ranger figures and Transformer figures for their Ultimates line, I don't think it's necessarily off the table. I don't know if Super 7 wants to do them. Maybe that the licensing fee would be too much to justify doing G.I. Joe since it's not quite, I don't think it's as popular as I know it's not as popular as Transformers. I don't know which I would say is more popular, Power Rangers or G.I. Joe. Probably Power Rangers, but I don't know. That one's a closer call. But I'm not sure how much Super 7 would actually want to do GI Joe. But I do think it's certainly possible with what we've been seeing from the company. And I don't know, Pixel Dan just posted a second interview with Brian Flynn just right before I went live here. And in that interview, he gives some, Brian Flynn from Super 7 gives some more details on the Ultimates lines that they announced, including that he did confirm that they are specifically going to be doing Ultimates versions of Silverhawks. So in their blurb that they put out this week, they just said they were doing figures, but they didn't specifically say whether it was like reaction. And I just realized you guys can't see me talking, so just a second. Okay, there we go. So in their blurb, they didn't officially state whether they were doing Ultimates, reactions. They just said figures, but they're doing both, which I pretty much suspected. Ultimates will probably be out before reactions. Now, I don't think any of those will be out until like next year, 2022, but they are doing Silverhawks for Ultimates. They confirmed that in Pixel Dan's interview that he just posted. Also for Godzilla, which was another surprise this week. I was really surprised to hear that they were going to be doing Ultimates of Godzilla. I thought Reactions was definitely a strong possibility, but Ultimates was surprising to me. But in Dan's interview, I know a lot of you had been asking whether they were just going to be able to do Godzilla or whether they could do the other Toho monsters. And according to Brian Flynn in that Pixel Dan interview, they can do pretty much all the monsters except for King Kong and Mega Kong. I didn't even know there was a Mega Kong, but King Kong and Mega Kong are off the table. And then Gamora is not owned by Toho, so that one's off the table as well. But pretty much all the other monsters, including Godzilla, are on the table, and Brian plans on doing those monsters for the Ultimates line. So again, those won't be out until 2022. But if you're into Godzilla, I like Godzilla. I plan on watching the Godzilla vs. King Kong movie on HBO Max when it airs. But I'm not super into the toys. I didn't really collect a lot of the NECA stuff. And, to me, Godzilla, you have one Godzilla, you have them all. I mean, I know his looks varies a bit over the years, but I don't know. Dinosaurs and things like that just aren't as appealing to me, I guess. But if you're into Godzilla, and I know there's definitely a lot of people who are, I think Super 7's going to do some cool things. Especially like the old Shogun Warrior version of Godzilla, which I think originally back in the day was put out by Mattel. So I have a feeling, he talks about that a little bit in Pixel Dan's interview, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up doing that at some point. Did I get the Plasma Series Ecto 1? I did not. I know it's hitting Target stores now, but it's not in scale with actual Plasma Series figures. It's made for the 4 or 5-inch kids figures, which actually I guess leaked out late last year. Some images of those leaked out, at least of the 4 original Ghostbusters. So even though they call it Plasma Series, it's not really made for the Plasma Series figures, which I think is kind of ridiculous. They shouldn't have put it in the Plasma Series line, but Oscar says he's curious about the Power Rangers stuff. Are they going to do Super 7 bulky molds? I don't. If you mean like a He-Man type sculpt, I don't think so. I think they'll be more in keeping with how they looked in the TV shows and stuff. So I won't say that for sure. We haven't seen them yet, and I haven't. I scanned through the Pixel Dan interview, which is over an hour long. So trying just to pick out the most interesting tidbits. I didn't have time to listen to the whole thing because I had to come here and be on live with you guys. But I don't think he specifically went into detail on the sculpting. He might have. Check out Pixel Dan's interview. They definitely do talk about the Power Rangers stuff, so that he might go into a little bit of detail on that. Jeff asked, "Do I think they'll do a Silverhawks Mirage ship?" I won't say it's off the table, but I look at it like this. It, Thundercats, in the scheme of popularity of 80s toy lines, and I kind of put it like in this order. At the top of nostalgia popularity, you've got He-Man, you've got Star Wars, you've got G.I. Joe and Transformers. I put all those on the top. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think, is pretty close to there. And then you start to get kind of more down into like the second tier, which I would definitely put Thundercats. I don't think like Thundercats is popular as say Masters of the Universe. It just doesn't have as many fans as like Masters or Transformers. Or even G.I. Joe, which I think over the years G.I. Joe is actually kind of, in the 80s, G.I. Joe was king of the hill for a while, but I don't think G.I. Joe, I think G.I. Joe's lost a lot of its popularity overall, just in the numbers of collectors out there. Now, Classified, I think, has definitely started to revitalize interest in G.I. Joe for a lot of people, but I don't think G.I. Joe is necessarily as popular as say Transformers or such. But Thundercats I kind of put down there in the second tier, and then I'd probably put Silverhawks in like a third tier, where Silverhawks probably isn't as popular as Thundercats. There's some classic 80 shows, Brave Star, things like that, which I just don't think are quite as popular as some of the more well-known 80s brands. Like I was aware of Silverhawks as a kid, but it's not a toy line I collect. Of course, I didn't collect Thundercat toys as a kid either. I watched the cartoon. I always watched the cartoon, but I never actually collected the Thundercat toys. But I never even really watched Silverhawks. So, it just wasn't, it was never, and like I didn't know anybody as a kid who collected or played with Silverhawks. So it just wasn't as popular of a brand. So where I'm going with this is going back to the question, do I think they'll do a large scale ship for Silverhawks? I won't say it's impossible, and a lot will probably depend on, say, like how well the Thunder Tank sells. But I've got to imagine that however well the Thunder Tank sells, they're probably going to take a look at that and then say, well, Silverhawks will probably only sell this percentage of what the Thunder Tank sold. So I think it's more of a long shot that they would do a large-scale Silverhawks vehicle. But if like the Thunder Tank sold really, really well, then that might open the possibility to more. And of course, also will depend on how many people actually buy the action figures. If they see a lot of people buying, the Ultimates action figures, then that will be a cue to them that maybe they can do a vehicle as well. So I think, again, it's not off the table, but I think a lot depend on just the sales of some of this other stuff that they're going to be releasing first. Hey, what's up, JJ Prime? Sammy, good morning. They need to release reissues of the original G.I. Joe 3 3/4. I'm assuming Double Down, you mean like the O-ring figures? I don't see that happening. I'm not even sure they have those original molds anymore. I'd heard that they lost a lot of the original tooling for the original figures, and just for other manufacturing reasons, I don't see them going back and doing O-rings. I won't say nothing's impossible, but I don't see it happening, at least not anytime soon. Herculoids. I did watch Herculoids. What's up, Tom? Yeah, I used to watch that on Saturday mornings. I don't. Trevor says Silverhawk toys were expensive for the time. I remember very little about the original Silverhawk toys. I remember Visionaries more than I do Silverhawks, just because I think I picked up the comic books for Visionaries, and I did actually end up like with one or two. Not that I was collecting Visionaries, but I ended up somehow having one or two of those figures as a kid. Masterpiece Gobots. Well, that one company has been trying to do some Gobot stuff. Chris says, if the Thunder Tank proves to be successful, do you think Super 7 will release a Cat Slayer? Yes, I think there would be a good chance. They could do it if the tank performs well. Then I think a Cat Slayer is definitely a possibility. It's going to be expensive. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, a lot of people are not happy with that $450 price tag for the Thunder Tank, and I think if you caught the first interview that Pixel Dan did with Brian Flynn yesterday, where they focus on the Thunder Tank, I think Brian does a pretty good job of explaining why it costs so much. But obviously, I personally like to understand these things. I think it's very interesting. But I also understand that if $450 is out of your price range, then it really doesn't matter whether it's justified or not. You're not going to be able to get it, or you would have to, it would be very difficult for you to be able to get it. So, I understand people being upset that it's so expensive. Again, I don't think there's any price gouging going on. I think it's a legitimate price for the company that's doing it in such a limited number. But I mean, me personally, I haven't decided whether I'm going to get the Thunder Tank because, well, two main reasons. So, first of all, price is a big reason. I mean, I could come up with 450 if I really wanted to, but there's so many other things that I could use $450 to buy. So, it's really kind of, do I really want to spend that much on just one vehicle? And then the other big obstacle for me getting the Thunder Tank is just where would I put it? It's so wide that most shelves that I have would not fit it. So I only have a few shelves, where like on the top, the space is wide enough to actually display it. And I've already got other things on those shelves. So, it's really going to be probably going to come down in the last minute whether I would get one or not. And then, but I very easily could see myself not getting the Thunder Tank. Not because I don't think it's cool, not because I think it's overpriced based on what it is. It's just that $450 is hard for me to plop down, and then also just the space that it would take up. The one upside when it comes to the space on the Thunder Tank, in my opinion, is at least you can display, you can open up the back and you can pretty much put all your Thundercats, or at least your prime Thundercat team, in the tank and display it like that. So at least you can use it to display your figures on. And, sometimes you get these vehicles that really is not geared to displaying figures. And so you not only need to have the shelf space for the vehicle, but then you also have to have shelf space for the figures. So when you can combine the two, that helps a little bit. But I don't know. I'm still on the fence. Even after seeing the updated images and stuff, I'm a little on the fence at this point. Let's see. Oscar says, might be one in a lifetime opportunity, unfortunately, for the Thunder Tank. I would agree. I wouldn't, Thundercats has not been, I mean, if you look at the modern history of Thundercats, I mean, the first company to get it was Bandai America, and that didn't last very long, obviously because of sales, and the new cartoon didn't do well. Then Mattel tried it, and they, I guess, didn't get the sales, and so they handed it off to Super 7. So, you're right. I don't necessarily, I mean, you never know, maybe one day a Thundercats movie would happen, and then there would be a revitalized interest in Thundercats from to become a mass retail line again. But right now, I wouldn't say it's a given. Blake with the super chat donation of $4.99. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And he says, prediction: Thunder Tank will have high resale. That I think you have a higher resale than Sentinel or Razor Crest. That's probably true, and mainly because there's going to be less Thunder Tanks out there. Hasbro is going to have probably produce larger numbers. In fact, I almost guarantee you they're going to produce larger numbers of the Razor Crest and the Sentinel than Super 7 is for the Thunder Tank. So yeah, just that there's less out there would stand to reason that the resale value down the road is going to be higher. Motaz. Hey JC, we want to hear your thoughts on the new Godzilla vs. Kong trailer. Godzilla or Kong, I don't know. Godzilla seemed kind of small, which I know some of you guys have seen, but I'm not sure how in keeping it is with the past movies. The last Godzilla movie and then the Kong movie. So I don't know. I mean, definitely there's connection there. You see some of the same actors, but I don't know. It's kind of weird to me. So I mean, I've got HBO Max already, so I'm definitely gonna watch it when it airs. Um, I love watching these being able to watch these movies at home, not having to go to the theater. But whether I think it's actually going to be super good, I don't know. Um, I thought I'm not. I know a lot of people like these monster movies just for the fighting and stuff, but I like a little bit of. I'm hoping the story is decent as well. So um, I don't know. But I definitely gonna watch it. Definitely plan on watching it, and my money is on. Well, my money is on that eventually they're gonna end up working together for whatever reason, probably fighting Mecha Godzilla or something. Um, but if there is any actual real winner in the fight between the two, I guess my money would be on Godzilla winning. Godzilla's got, I mean, the laser breath. I mean, Kong's got what, an axe that he makes or something. I mean, yeah, come on. Unless they like depower Godzilla for some in some way or such, then it might be more of an equal fight. But I think Godzilla is probably the stronger of the two monsters. Jeff says, "Come on, everybody, get the Thunder Tank." I wouldn't worry, Jeff. As far as I mean, if you're worried about them getting enough orders to be able to go forward with the production, I think they will. I don't think that will be an issue. I think regardless of how many people are complaining about the price, there will always be diehard collectors out there who will put down the money for something like that. And I'm sure Super 7 has a pretty good feel just based on their Ultimates figure sales and everything, the Thundercat figure sales. I think they probably have a pretty good idea that, they can get a certain level of sales. So I wouldn't be too worried. I know in the Pixel Dan interview, he said technically, they have to get a certain number of orders or they wouldn't be able to go forward with it. He didn't tell us how many that number was, but I have little doubt that they will be able to go forward with it. So even though there's going to be a lot of people who aren't going to get it just because of the price, I think there'll be enough people who do that it going forward won't be an issue. Do I have any expectations for the Mortal Kombat movie? John asks. I don't. In fact, I haven't even really watched the trailer for that movie. So, um, again, it's on HBO Max, so I'll probably watch it when it airs. But I do like the original. I might be one of the few, but I actually do like the original Mortal Kombat movie. So, it might be good. Michael says he's Team Godzilla as well. My prediction is that they will end up working. It'll be like a typical superhero good guy battle where they fight it out for a while and then they end up teaming up together at the end. So that is my prediction of what will happen is they'll end up teaming up together. But yeah, whether they actually give us an actual winner of the fight before that happens, we'll have to see. Quinn says, shouldn't these large items be put on Kickstarter like Razor Crest was? if you're talking about the Thunder Tank, I mean, it's not technically on Kickstarter, and they're not even technically, I guess, classifying it as a crowdsource. They're classifying as a made for pre-order, which there's not a big difference between, crowdsourcing and made to pre-order. I guess I would say the biggest difference is there aren't like add-ons, incentive add-ons, going this route. So, and sometimes even with crowdsourcing, you don't even get the add-ons. But technically, they've put it up for pre-order. They're only going to make, at least according to what they say, they're only going to make, like if they only get, say, 10 pre-orders, they're only going to make 10 tanks. Now, they do have a minimum number that they've got to get orders for. And again, we don't know what that number is. But just like with the Kickstarter, if they don't get that minimum number, they wouldn't go forward with the tank. So, to me, it is essentially a crowdsourcing thing. They're not using that terminology for this particular one, but very little difference in the overall way it's being sold, between the two. Made to pre-order and crowdsourcing, I mean, they're all just kind of plays on words, basically. What do I think of the Eternals? When do I think the Eternals trailer will drop? Probably not until after Black Widow ever comes out. So, whenever that's going to be, which right now I guess is on track for May, but I suspect it's either going to get delayed or they're going to end up putting Black Widow on Disney Plus, like they did the Mulan movie, which is what I'm hoping they do. So, but I don't expect a trailer for another movie to come out until we get to Black Widow. When will there be more info on the Marvel Legends Disney Plus line? Before June, I would say, because I believe that's when they're supposed to be released. But I don't know when Hasbro officially plans to reveal the Disney Plus Marvel Legends. I'm guessing maybe not until after the Falcon and Winter Soldier series starts to air, but I don't know. They need a third component for Godzilla and King Kong. How about Gypsy Danger? Yeah, I don't think Pacific Rim's going to be making an appearance, but I would say the third element for the movie is going to be Mega Godzilla. Am I excited for the Keanu Reeves comic? Uh, I'm not too up on that, so I can't say I'm excited since I don't know much about it, but it might be interesting. Tom says Laura Legends did a review of the one of the Jurassic Park figures. It looked amazing. Can't wait until it hits American shelves. Yeah, I saw a review come up on her channel. I didn't look at it, but I wasn't. I guess she got an advanced copy of something or advanced sample or what have you. I don't follow the Jurassic Park that closely. Mattel's not that great with their communication on the line, and it's hard for me to kind of keep up with it just because all those damn dinosaurs end up looking the same. So, Gemini says, when will the Fallen Silver Surfer be available for pre order? At Walgreens, again, I don't know. I don't have any kind of specific date. Since it's already hitting in Canada, I would assume fairly soon. My guess is it actually won't go up for pre-order. It probably will just start hitting shelves here in the US probably within the next month, and then at some point, and I think that's what happened with the Silver Centurion Iron Man figure, if I remember correctly. It just started showing up in stores, and then eventually they put it up on their website, but they didn't actually do a pre-order for it. So my guess is it'll be the same with the Silver Surfer, where they don't actually put it up for pre-order. They'll just it'll probably hit physical stores first, so you'll start seeing reports of people finding it at physical stores, and then at some point, like I said, they'll end up throwing it up on their website. Right now, Walgreens has absolutely no Marvel Legends on their website at all. They've taken all the Marvel Legends off their website, so um, hopefully they'll be putting something up pretty soon. I don't think that one will be that difficult to find, to be honest. I mean, it's an interesting take on the Silver Surfer, but it is, very similar to the other Silver Surfer. So I suspect that one will be one of the easier ones to get. And then, of course, the X-Men Power of the X line is also hitting Canada, so that will probably start hitting shelves here fairly soon as well. So, any idea on if Hasbro's moving ahead on D&D line? Nothing has been announced, but with, there's been indications there's a movie coming, there's TV series coming. I have little doubt that Hasbro's going to move forward with action figures and toys for D&D at some point. But at this point, Hasbro's not officially announced anything, nor have I seen like any leaked information for D&D at this point. Hey Henry, what's up? Impossible Pie says, will Toy Fair be a virtual show this year? Or did they just cancel it completely? Well, Toy Fair itself has been canceled. Now, I am sure companies have been revealing stuff online, this whole past year. Will anybody do like a big giant event for Toy Fair? I doubt it. I think we'll just continue to get reveals, they'll roll out reveals, week after week, type of thing. So Toy Fair is not really like a convention like San Diego Comic-Con. Its main intent is for retailers or for the manufacturers to sell their product to the retailers, which I'm sure is going on now, behind the scenes. Companies are having Zoom calls with places like Walmart and Target and stuff as they try and show off their new product and sell. But then I think probably what's likely going to mostly happen is companies will just continue to roll things out virtually. Each individual company on their own schedule will just continue to roll things out periodically as we go along. So I don't expect there to be like a big Toy Fair event per se, but yes, I think it's safe to say you can expect companies to continue to announce and show off new product virtually. John says, which characters you think will be released in the Disney Plus line? Well, I've given you, I've talked about and just posted on Marvelous News an update because the assortment showed up on Toys R Us Canada's website. But the wave is rumored, and when I say rumored, I say about 99.9%. The wave is going to include some version of Wanda and Vision. Now, I don't know what version of those characters. It could be anything. It could be black and white versions. It could be, Halloween costume versions. It could be, I don't know. But Wanda and Vision are going to be in the wave. Falcon and Winter Soldier are going to be in the wave. And again, like with Falcon, it's listed as Captain America. So, which outfit is it going to be? I don't know. U.S. Agent's going to be in that wave. Loki is going to be in that wave. So I don't know what the Build-A-Figure is going to be in that wave, but the figures are pretty much known for that wave. Now, again, exactly what they look like and stuff, that we're waiting to see. And I have there should be a second Disney Plus wave coming later in the year, but I have absolutely no idea at this point what figures are in that wave. Ninja Knight, great to see your price on the exclusives. As an international fan, I have no access to Hasbro Pulse, Target, and Walmart, along with GameStop. It's infuriating, so thank you for that written piece. No problem. I mean, the point of that piece, I wish I had solutions to these problems, and if you haven't read my editorial I posted yesterday on TNI, it basically talks about exclusives and the overuse of exclusives, but why exclusives happen and why so many companies and pretty much all the companies are not willing to turn their backs on Walmart and Target. Um, which means the exclusives, because in the end of the day, Walmart and Target or Hasbro, all these companies, not just Hasbro, it's NECA, it's McFarlane, it's Jazzwares, it's Mattel, it's all of them. These days, really the only large place that sells their product is Target and Walmart. Used to be back in the day, when the action figure, when toys actually started to become action figure collectibles, not just toys for kids. There was a lot more places for these companies to sell their product. There was Tower Records, there was Suncoast Video, there was, a ton of other places. But most of those places have all gone out of business. And so there's just very few places. I mean, GameStop, and who knows what's going to happen with GameStop. But my guess is that at the end of the day, GameStop's days are still numbered. But there's just not a lot of options for these companies to sell. And as much as I would love to see them put more emphasis in supporting the small e-tailer, so that maybe one day the small e-tailer could become the large e-tailer, Hasbro and all these companies are going to cater to the places that are ordering the most of their product. And again, unfortunately, that's just Walmart and Target. Even though they don't carry as much product as we would like them to see, like to see them carry, they're still ordering far more product than anybody else. And that's where these companies make their money. And I know some of you kind of treat it as, well, how dare they want to make a profit? But I mean, they're businesses. That's what they do. So, that's not to say that these companies aren't doing everything in their power to try and get the Walmarts and Targets to carry more of their stuff. They're not deliberately going, oh yeah, we don't want to send you more stuff because we like to see these guys, have to hunt around for our stuff. It's Target and Walmart that don't want to order more because they don't think there's enough sales there. They're ordering conservatively, and then if they see something that has demand that sells out quickly, then they'll go back and probably reorder more. But then that takes time, especially in this age of COVID and everything. Things don't move fast. So, but the stores don't want to be stuck with the unsold merchandise, a la like Ghostbusters Plasma series, that end up on clearance. I know a lot of you guys, and I've done it myself, when you don't think it's going to sell out quickly, what do? You wait for it to go on clearance. Well, that helps with the wallet, but it sends a message to the retailer that says, don't order more of this stuff because it's not selling. So it sucks. I don't know, at this stage, I don't see how you break the monopoly that basically Walmart and Target have on the industry. But, and when you go direct, like a la Super 7, where they're just selling directly essentially to the consumer, then the prices skyrocket. So, it's a catch-22. If you want to get the Thunder Tank, you don't have to worry about it selling out, but you are going to have to pay an arm and a leg for it, because the numbers are so low that they have to charge more for it, and you end up paying more. So, again, I don't really know what the solution to the problem is, but and quite frankly, I do see it's a hole that's being dug by these companies as they cater solely to Target and Walmart. They're putting the small guys out of business, and that's only going to make the problem worse over time, not better. But again, what do you do? I don't know. And so I would not be surprised if this hobby ends up dying out, because while there are people that will pay more or will go hunt the store every day or go buy from the scalper, there are plenty of people who, this is already a small hobby, and I've talked about this before, those people are just moving on to other things. And so a small hobby is now becoming smaller and smaller and smaller, and eventually it's just not going to exist anymore. So, I don't know. Like I said, I don't have the solutions. I wish I did. If I did have the solutions, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I'd probably be the CEO of some major corporation making a shit ton of money. But there it is. I can see the problem, but I don't really have a good solution. And Blake asks, another super chat donation. Thanks, man. Exclusives for army builders is a crime. I would agree, but they're also what sells, so I don't know. I mean, I don't disagree with you, but the thing about one thing to consider, I mean, and let's talk GI Joe, because right now that's one of the hardest. The Target exclusives is one of the hardest figures to get. But when it comes to the Army Builder, in the first round of Target exclusives, we had the Cobra Trooper. Well, the Cobra Trooper is now being a version of it, which very minor differences. If you want a Cobra Trooper, you basically now have the option of getting a Cobra Trooper. You can go pre-order it. You can go pre-order as many as you want. Places like Big Bad Toy Store can order solid cases of those figures, so you can order it. You're not going to have it as fast. They're going to show up at Target first, which I believe that wave is actually going to start showing up. The wave with Zartan and the Cobra Trooper are going to start showing up next Friday. That's the date that they have on their website for those two figures. So that's probably where you're going to see them first. But of course, they're going to be in limited number. They're going to quickly sell out there at Target, and you're not going to be able to easily find the Cobra Trooper at Target. But if you're willing to wait, you can just go pre-order it somewhere online, like a Big Bad Toy Store, and not have to worry about it. And I'm sure the Viper will get a version of the Viper will get re-released that way as well. So I'm guessing Target will get more of their Vipers in at some point, but I also feel it's a very good possibility that there will be a version of the Vipers that will go up in the regular line. So some of this stuff, it's just about having to wait, which I know can be frustrating, but I do think you'll get your hands on it eventually. But again, it doesn't matter how much people complain online. You can berate Hasbro, you can berate Target. Hasbro's not going to quit doing exclusives for Walmart and Target, neither any of the other toy companies. The retailers want to do the exclusives because they know it will get you in the door, and that is their main goal. They don't even really care whether you find the exclusive. Once you're there, they figure you're going to buy something else. So, exclusives, unfortunately, are not going to go away. Every product, if you look at every announcement that NEC has been making recently, same thing with McFarlane, everything is going to the retailer first. They're not technically exclusives, they're limited exclusives, but everything is getting released at either Walmart or Target first, like for a month or so. Now, I know from you guys, you're saying, oh my God, I got to go to Target or Walmart. Well, no, you don't. You can just wait for an e-tailer to put it up. But think about the retailer who, they can't even take pre-orders for this stuff until months after Walmart and Target have been selling it. And to me, that's the most screwed up thing about it, because that is a tactic that is just, like I said, putting the small guy out of business. And while I don't think Hasbro or any of these other manufacturers really want to put the small guy out of business, I do think Target and Walmart want to put them out of business. And these companies, because they don't want to piss off their biggest customers, seem to be perfectly willing to go along with that. So that's where, if I'm going to fault the manufacturer for anything, that is where I fault them. But I also understand from the business aspect, when, your biggest customers, they tend to be the ones that dictate things, and what are you going to do? Oh, and also, I've talked about this before, but there is price increases coming this year. With Marvel Legends and Black Series and stuff, the MSRP is going to be going from $19.99 to $22.99. If you listen to the Brian Flynn interview that Pixel Dan did, he basically explains that the factories in China are raising their prices due to inflation and things like that, and that in keeping is going to have a reciprocal effect. That price is essentially going to be passed on to us, the consumer, and so you can probably expect pretty much every toy line here in the next year is going to start going up in price to a certain extent. And according to Brian, he's expecting these price increases to happen every year now in China. So now some companies are moving their factories to other countries where they're trying to find cheaper costs, but I think it's a safe bet that the $20 6-inch action figure is the thing of the past, and now the going price of it is going to be essentially $23. And then of course the small e-tailer that has to raise their price often a little bit more than like the Targets and Walmarts, they have to then a $20 figure at Walmart and Target was 22, 23 bucks at the e-tailer. Now it's going to go up to 25 bucks. And, you know, again, because the small guy doesn't get the discounts that the big guy does. And if they get stuck with unsold merchandise, you know, Walmarts and Targets can swallow some unsold merchandise that ends up going on the clearance aisle. The small guy can't, and will put them out of business if they get stuck with too much unsold merchandise. Quinn Comics says, I'm the small guy. They need to ship the comic shops first over big box retailers. I would agree with you, but you know, we're seeing the reverse, and I'm sure that is because Walmart and Targets are saying, you know, you need to make sure we get this stuff first, or we're not going to buy from you anymore. Or we're not going to buy as much from you anymore. I mean, I can't say that 100%, but I think it's a pretty safe bet that the Targets and Walmarts are using what leverage they have to squeeze out the small guys, because they're your competition to them. You know, it's a small demographic already, and, you know, they don't want you buying your figures from the small guy. They want you coming into Target and Walmart. So they're going to do everything they can to put you out of business. Which long term I think is a terrible strategy for the toy manufacturers. This is why they're in that position, because, you know, even like Toys R Us, if you think about, if you're old enough to remember before Toys R Us, what it was like to buy toys before Toys R Us came along. Used to be most toy stores were individually owned. There wasn't like these large corporate toy stores like a Toys R Us. And what Toys R Us did is they came along and they put out all the small mom and pop toy shops out of business. Toys R Us did to the small individual owned toy stores exactly what ended up happening to them by Walmarts and Targets. They put them out of business. But it's this, you know, as we are going along, you know, and there becomes less and less places to sell the product, then, you know, like I said, the toy companies are essentially long-term just digging this hole where eventually, you know, Walmart and Target are going to have a complete monopoly, and they'll be able to do whatever the hell they want, and these companies will have absolutely no leverage to do anything about it. And I'm sure in fact, I know, because I've heard people who work in the industry talk about this. Another thing, you know, you guys always talk about quality, right? Well, Walmart's don't want high-priced figures on their shelf. They want as cheap as possible. So, you know, they actually put pressure on the manufacturers to cheapen and cut the corners as much as possible to keep those prices down. So, they don't want $50 action figures on their shelf because they don't think those will sell that well. They don't think parents will buy a $50 action figure, and that's still who they're primarily targeting these toys to, is not you and me, but to the kids and their parents. And so they hate these high-priced items. That's why, you know, you don't see a Thunder tank on the shelf, or, you know, when NECA does their party van and the Turtles there, they're going to do it direct to consumer sale because they can't get Walmart and Target to carry those big priced items. But even with the small action figures, they do everything they can to try and get the manufacturers to cut their costs, which means to cut costs, you've got to cut quality, you've got to cut accessories, you've got to cut paint applications, you've got to cut articulation. That's why these minimal articulated action figures, which are billed to us as retro, are so popular because they're cheap. You know, a $10, you know, those new Marvel Legend 3 3/4 inch retro figures are $10 each. Retailers love that, you know, because they think the kids will come in and buy it. They're not thinking you're going to buy it. They're thinking the kids and the parents will come in and buy it. Spider-Man for $10, hell yeah. And I've even seen some of you guys who have kids say, you know, this is a great line for my kids, and that's what they're banking on. So Bean says CMD store is pretty awesome, pricey but awesome. Yes, CMD store always seems to be one of the first places to get anything in stock. I don't know exactly how they do it, but that's why they are raising the price They may have to pay more. I mean, honest, I don't know, but it's a good possibility they have to pay more just to get them so early. But they also probably are raising the price on things just because they know they're the first place to have them in stock, and they know a lot of you, especially like toy reviewers and stuff who are trying to be the first person to review the toy, will pay their high prices for those things. So again, they probably do have to pay more to get those figures in before anybody else, but they also are probably raising the price a bit just because they know there's a certain element of the collectors who will pay that extra money just so they can be the first one to have it. Well, Amazon, I mean, Amazon's technically action figure expert. I mean, I put Amazon, technically they don't have a physical store, right? They're online. But I put them in the same category as Target and Walmart. Now, I don't think Amazon at this stage orders as much product as Target and Walmart, but if there's anybody online that comes close to ordering as much product as those two retailers, then it would be Amazon. And but I don't, even though technically they're an online seller, I don't put they're pretty much in the same category. They're not like the small mom and pop e-tailer trying who. And what's sad is you know Walmart and Target will never truly cater to the collector. Okay. Um, we're just not a big enough demographic for them to take that seriously. There's enough there for them to, they see they can make some money. You may recall last year Walmart launched this collector section on their website, right? And they got like, all these gold label exclusives from McFarlane and things like that. And they had a bunch of Hasbro exclusives, the Black Series exclusives and everything. So they launched this whole collector and they sent out press releases. I got a press release from Walmart, back when they launched this, trying to promote it. They had Hasbro promoting it on, their live streams. So it was this all big deal, right? They're going to start catering to the collector. But what does Walmart do? They start shipping out these figures in like bags. Like I got the Todd McFarlane gold label figure, and this thing literally came to my house in a bag, not a box, but a bag. And you can see here, and it's not, I open my figures, so this isn't really that big a deal to me. But in fact, one of the reasons why I got this figure though is because I thought it was kind of cool. It was a Todd McFarlane designed action figure, and so I actually thought I might keep it in the packaging. And I'm not impressed with the figure. I've talked about that, but it got all dinged up because they mailed it to me in a bag. So had I wanted to keep this mint in the box, I wouldn't have, because they mailed the damn thing in a bag. So they go through the motions of they kind of give us this talk that they're going to cater to the collectors, but then they don't really follow through with what's actually required to cater to the collector. They don't do nice shipping and stuff. And even people I've heard that have gotten this figure in a box, apparently it was like such a small box that it was like all crammed inside and everything. So, still their box, their packaging got damaged. So, and I don't see that ever changing. I don't see Walmart taking extra care in shipping an action figure to the collectors. It's, you're lucky if they don't just cancel the order outright. And I mean, that I think is in part because of COVID. I think, with these retailers canceling a lot of their pre-orders, I think it's because a lot of the inventory has gotten held up, and so I don't really blame them for that. There are things going on this past year that are related to the pandemic, and obviously we can't really fault any of these companies for that. But a lot of this stuff, the exclusives and things like the shipping in a bag and stuff, I mean, that's not pandemic related. These are things that were happening before the pandemic, and it's just the state of the hobby. But and again, for me, I'm lucky enough I have no problem ordering online because, like I said, in general, I open my figures. So if the box gets dinged up, I don't really care that much. Again, in this particular case, I might have kept it in the packaging. had it not gotten damaged. But in general, I open my figures, so I'm not that worried. But certainly, if you're a mint and package collector, ordering online can be difficult. And it doesn't matter whether it's Walmart, Amazon, Target, what have you. Generally, the figures themselves don't get damaged, but the packaging can often get dinged up and beat up and stuff. So Ollie says he thinks the Fortnite Snake Eyes is awesome. Yeah, it is. It is essentially. They didn't put the classified label on it, but it's a GI Joe classified line based on the Fortnite version of Snake Eyes. So, it is essentially a classified, and it's basically maybe a new head sculpt, but it is the same figure as before. Twin says his Amazon Storm Shadow box was destroyed. And mine actually, that one arrived okay. And I've had less issue with Amazon. Um, I guess I've just been lucky, but I've had more issues with stuff that's come from Target and Walmart as far as like boxes being damaged or just getting a bag or what have you. I've had a couple things show up in a bag from various retailers, and I guess I just got lucky that they didn't get damaged. But and sometimes it's funny because sometimes I've also the opposite where I've ordered something that's pretty small and it comes in this huge giant box and I'm like, oh my God, what is it? I'm like, it shows up on my porch and I'm like, what? I don't remember ordering anything like this. And I open it up and it's like a small action figure. So sometimes they go both, I guess, when they have shortages on boxes or something, it goes both ways. I think the worst thing on Walmart is like the people that were trying to collect those retro carded figures, which I think most people collect to keep on the card backs. I'm talking about like the Star Wars and the Rogue Ghostbusters figures and even like the G.I. Joe ones. So those are the worst because, your card back's almost always going to get damaged. And of course, the only place to get those is Walmart. And Blake again with another donation. Super chat donation. Thanks for explaining distribution. No problem, man. And I want to be clear. I truly, my goal here is to try, I've been covering stuff for 20 years and I don't say that to be like, ooh, I know things that you don't. I'm trying to impart my knowledge of why a lot of these things happen based on my experiences. Now, I am somebody just like you, somebody outside looking in, but I've probably had more opportunities than most of you. I mean, I don't know, could be people who actually work in the industry or watching this video. I don't know. But I'm guessing that most people watching, I probably gotten to peek behind the curtain a little bit more than you guys. So I tell you that I'm not defending a Hasbro. I'm not telling you shouldn't be mad about all the exclusives. I get pissed at it. I'm just trying to explain to you why it's probably happening. And why they probably really don't have as much control to fix it as you might think. I know some of you, just listening to your comments on social media and stuff, seem to think, well, it's Hasbro could fix this, snap their fingers and fix this problem in a minute. And unfortunately, they really can't. And then as far as like just turning their backs and saying, we're not going to sell to you Walmart and Target anymore, from a business perspective, that's just not terribly practical. So they're kind of in a rock and a hard place. I'm sure they're doing everything they can to try and get these places to carry more of their product, because at the end of the day, there's probably nobody, they would be more ecstatic than you, I'm guessing, if you could walk into your local Walmart and Target and see their product overflowing on the shelves, because that would be more money in their pocket. You'd be able to find the figures that you want, but they would be making a lot more money if Target and Walmarts were willing to carry their products in that kind of number. So, the honest to God truth is, not because they want to help you guys, but because it's just more product that these retailers order, the more money they make. And so they would be probably far more ecstatic than even you if Walmarts and Targets were willing to carry their stuff in that much number. So, Hasbro, obviously, they're the face of it. They're the ones putting it out. I understand why the anger gets put to them. And like I said, I do put them, they have essentially allowed this to happen over time. This has been building up for years, and they could have done things to possibly help build up the smaller guy. So at this stage, they weren't as small as they are, and maybe even done things to grow the hobby even more. But instead, they were looking, I think they were looking more short term. And even for a long time, I don't even think putting that much emphasis, remember, I mean, let's be honest here. None of this stuff was originally made for you and me. Hasbro didn't start making toys for adult action figure collectors. They started making them for kids, and it took them a long time to even start to really acknowledge the adult action figure collecting. And Hasbro was really ahead of the game over, say, like a Mattel or many of these other... I gotta plug in my laptop here. The battery's going low. But, these didn't start out as action figure adult collectibles. They started out as toys for kids, and slowly as this demographic has grown a bit over the years, it's still small, but it has grown. In the 20 years I've been covering this stuff, it's definitely gotten more popular and even a little more mainstream. So, but keep in mind that the original intent of these companies was not to make the stuff for adult collectors, it was to make them for kids. And so if you've ever worked in a corporate environment, nothing really happens fast, and sometimes, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And there's just a lot of red tape that you end up having to deal with when you're in a corporate environment. And that's what a Hasbro is. That's what a Mattel is. They're these corporations, and there's bean counters, and there's executives, and there's, all kinds of things. So, the guys that you see on the videos, the designers and the Dwight Stalls and all those guys, they have very little control over distribution. So when you start berating them on their YouTube live streams, you're really kind of yelling at the wrong people. And that's really the only point that I try to make is, you're well within your right to be upset about all the exclusives and how difficult and frustrated about how difficult it is to collect a lot of this stuff. And I'm right there with you. And I have no problem calling out any of these companies to voice those frustrations. Somebody had said something like, I have this relationship with Hasbro. I don't have a great relationship with Hasbro. In fact, I probably piss them off more than you guys do. When I report rumors, they hate that. So, I don't have some ulterior motive to try and share this knowledge that I have. I'm just trying to explain it so you understand it. I realize it's at the end of the day, it's not going to change your frustration levels because you're still not going to be able to find it, or they're still going to be expensive or whatever. It's just that sometimes it's my feeling that if you kind of understand why things happen, it's a little easier to, swallow it, I guess. But Kyle says, been binging on the Spectre creative videos the last couple of months. Soothe the burn. Yeah, Spectre, for those of you not familiar, Spectre Creative is a channel that Toy Guru, who used to be at Mattel, started. And I haven't watched a lot of his videos. I did catch that one that he did on G.I. Joe the other week. And I got to be honest, I found that video to be mostly BS. This is the one with they had Bobby who used to work at Hasbro, who's got his own action force line, and I guess Scott had brought him on to talk about G.I. Joe. Now the title of the video was "Why is G.I. Joe hard to get?" which really wasn't the focus of the video. So right off the bat, the title to me was kind of misleading. And in fact, other than the Target exclusives, G.I. Joe Classified is not really that hard to get if you're willing to order online. But I assume the title was meant to reference, the frustration everybody has with finding the Target exclusives. But then you start watching the video, and Bobby starts talking about essentially making this accusation that Hasbro's deliberately watering down G.I. Joe Classified with not providing as many accessories and stuff because they don't want they don't want G.I. Joe Classified making Marvel Legends and Star Wars Black Series look bad. Now, his reasoning behind this was because G.I. Joe is Hasbro's own property, so they don't pay any licensing fees or, as he phrased it, residuals or whatever. Whereas like with Star Wars and Marvel Legends, there's this extra cost that goes towards these licensing fees. They have to, again, they have to pay Disney for to make those figures. So that's an extra cost that goes into, essentially the bottom line. And that's all 100% accurate, 100%. But I don't believe that Hasbro is deliberately reducing the quality of, basically the argument was there should be all this extra money because they're not paying the licensing fee to anybody because it's their own property. So they should be able to take that money and put in like all these extra accessories and everything. Now keep in mind that the person who's telling you this might maybe have an ulterior motive because he's launched his own similar line to G.I. Joe Classified with Action Force. And so, like I said, trying to sour you on G.I. Joe, which, is kind of what it seemed like he was doing, there might be an ulterior motive there. I don't know. But just doing the math, it didn't look that good to me. So, but the point that he did not bring up, which I think is when you're comparing G.I. Joe Classified to Star Wars Black Series and to Marvel Legends, the big point that he failed to bring up is that those two lines, G.I. Joe or Star Wars and Marvel, are much popular brands than G.I. Joe. The retailers are much more willing to carry them in larger numbers, which is why they're easier in general to find, and they just sell more. They sell more volume. So if you know anything about toy manufacturing, you know that if and this is going back to like the Super 7, why their stuff tends to be more expensive is because they're ordering, when they go to the factory, they're producing a much smaller number than say like a Hasbro does with their product. So to me, it would seem pretty logical to assume that Hasbro's not producing as many G.I. Joe figures because it's not as popular a brand as Marvel and Star Wars, and therefore there's probably extra costs at the factory because they're producing less at the factory. Even if maybe Hasbro is producing, say, the same amount of figures as Star Wars and Marvel, then that just likely means that they would end up with more unsold inventory, and so they would end up taking a loss there over, again, Star Wars and Marvel. So I feel like while it's certainly a legitimate point to say there isn't a licensing fee with Star Wars or with G.I. Joe, and the same thing for Mattel and Masters of the Universe, they own Masters of the Universe, so there's no licensing fee with that line. But I think both G.I. Joe and Masters of the Universe are sold in much smaller numbers, and the retailers are not willing to order as much of those lines because they're not as popular. That there's an extra cost there that Bobby seemed to fail completely to mention in his video, as he was essentially, like I said, seemingly trying to sour people on G.I. Joe Classified by saying that Hasbro was deliberately watering those lines down to not make Marvel Legends and Star Wars Black Series look bad. So I thought that was all ridiculous. And I like I said, I haven't really watched any other of Toy Guru's videos, but if they're all like that, if they kind of omit things to paint a certain picture, I don't know. I'm not sure I find that terribly insightful. I mean, somebody like Scott who has worked, unlike me, where I'm on the outside in, I've talked to these companies, I've covered them. I'm still somebody on the outside in. Somebody like Scott Guru, who's worked at multiple companies. He worked at Mattel, then he worked at Jada Toys. He worked somewhere. I mean, after he left Mattel. Mattel was where he worked the longest, and then after, and I don't remember if I think he was laid off. I don't know. I don't know if anyone ever. He may have quit. I don't know, but he went to multiple toy companies, and now I guess he's somewhere making YouTube videos. So if he's truly giving inside information on how the industry works, I think that's great. But like I said, the video I watched seemed like had an ulterior motive there, and I don't know. I don't like talking bad about anybody, and so I'm just going to leave it at that. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying, that may have just been a one-off video. He might be giving insightful information on the industry, and like I said, somebody like that who has worked in the industry should be able to do that. And it's great if there's more people out there who are willing to actually talk about a lot of this stuff, because when you actually work for these companies, you can't really, it's much harder to actually talk about this stuff because you're fearful for your job. You're afraid you're going to say something that might get you fired. I've seen other people like Dave Honor and a couple other guys who've worked in the industry that, have come on some videos and been pretty honest about what it's like to work at some of these companies like Hasbro and stuff. And I love hearing that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I'm rambling, so I saw that video, that one video, that G.I. Joe video, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Okay, Solid says Walmart never stocks anything. The toy aisles are always empty. It's a joke. Well, my Walmart's the same way. But so going back to that Brian Flynn interview that Pixel Dan did on the Thunder Tank, Brian was talking about, and he doesn't work for Mattel, but I'm sure as somebody who works in the industry and has other friends who work in the industry, I'm sure this is something that's come up. So he didn't flat out say 100% this was accurate, but I think it's safe to assume that these numbers that he was throwing out are pretty close to accurate. And so what he said was that, like, when you take an action figure line, like say WWE for Mattel, he was speculating that the minimum order that a Walmart initial order, now that doesn't include if they go back and reorder more or what have you, but the initial order of an assortment of just WWE figures at Walmart only, not Target, not other places, but just at Walmart, was 50,000 pieces. Now that sounds like a pretty high number, right? And in fact, that is, in the overall scheme of things of other retailers, that is probably higher than any other retailer other than maybe Target and maybe Amazon are going to be able to order. A Big Bad Toy Store could never order 50,000 of a figure and hope to be able to sell through that inventory. So it is a high number on one extent. But then when you start thinking about how many Walmarts are actually in the country, and I'm not sure if the 50,000 was just for U.S. orders or if it was worldwide. I'm not. He didn't specifically say, but if you just consider how many Walmart stores there are in this country alone, and I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but there are a lot. I mean, you go drive, on the interstate, and every 15 minutes you drive past a Walmart. Any little town you go into, you drive past a Walmart, right? So if you think about if you're trying to stock every single Walmart store in the country, you can kind of start to see that 50,000 really isn't a lot. And so that's why it's so hard for places, and some places stock, obviously not every store stocks equally. So some stores maybe get more stock than others. So that's why, and again, you can often look to places that are near shipping ports. They tend to be a better stock stores than ones that aren't, and things like, or distribution centers or stuff. So that all plays a role in it. But when you think about it, just taking the raw numbers of say 50,000 units as a minimum order, that's not a lot when you're talking about stocking all the different Walmarts that are in the country. And that's why it ends up being that a lot of these figures are very hard to find, because Walmart's not willing to order 50, at least starting off usually is not willing to order than say more than 50,000 units. Now you might be going, well, why is that? Why won't they order more? Well, I think it's, again, going back to sales data. Sales data is what they base these decisions on. They don't go to social media and see how many of you are complaining online about not being able to find these products. They go to their sales data and they see how many of these figures are selling. Now, I'm guessing, I don't have these numbers, so it is pretty much a guess, but you got to figure, again, Walmart's a business just like Hasbro. So if Walmart was seeing sales data that suggested that they could sell more than what they're ordering, you probably got to figure it's a good bet that they would. So my guess is the sales data just doesn't support ordering more in general. Now, if they do get that item, that one item, that, occasional item that does end up selling better than what they thought, then they can go back and reorder more, which, they will. But of course, that takes time, especially again in this age of COVID, when you've got to reorder, that's going to take longer for the stores to then restock. But they're ordering conservatively because they would much rather be able to sell through that initial inventory and not have unsold merchandise that they then have to turn around and clearance. And then reorder whatever is maybe, if there is that item that was in higher demand, then they'll go back and reorder it and eventually they'll get it on their shelf. But that is why I think Walmarts and Targets aren't willing to order more and just have the product overflowing on their shelves, because if they did that, they would end up with a lot of inventory that's unsold that would just go on clearance. And when something goes on clearance, it's great for your wallet, but it's not great for the bottom line of the retailer or the toy manufacturers. It sends a message, like I said, it sends a message that says this stuff is not selling in that great of number. I'm just reading through some of your guys' comments. MK Solid says, Toys R Us used to stock so much NECA figures. They were falling off the shelves. It's such a shame. That's true for some stuff. Not everything was easy to get, especially like the DC figures and stuff. But, and let's be honest, okay? Let's take NECA, except for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff. I have not found any of the other NECA stuff to be terribly hard to get at Target stores. I go into Targets and I see those, horror figures. I see the Godzilla figures. I see the Back to the Future figures. Most of the stuff that NECA does is not that hard to get, other than the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff, which of course is their biggest property and probably their best-selling property. So, and I had this discussion on Facebook today where, somebody didn't understand, well, why don't they just sell online directly? Why do they need Walmart and Target? Well, the idea is because Target and Walmart are going to order a lot more than anything they could sell directly. But the idea is there's a certain element that will know when you guys that follow this stuff closely, when stuff's starting to hit shelves, which store is going to carry what. But there's a lot of people out there that, like a company like NECA, is hoping will end up buying their product, but isn't sitting here listening to YouTube videos or going to a site like TNI to read the latest toy news. They're basically casual shoppers, might not even be action figure collectors. Somebody who maybe, grew up watching Back to the Future movies and really liked the movies, but didn't even know there were action figures being made. And so they're out shopping, they're doing their grocery shopping at Target, and they happen to go past the aisle with the Back to the Future figures. And so the idea is that they see that and they go, oh, wow, I love that movie. I didn't even know these existed. And so they pick it up and they put it in their cart and they end up buying it. And a lot of the sales that you see at Walmart and Target are very much like that. They're spur of the moment, casual collectors or what have you, people who are not, they're not you and me who's sitting online all the time following this stuff closely. They are just people who probably don't even know who NECA Toys is, but they see the Back to the Future figure because they're a fan of Back to the Future, and hopefully they're going to buy it. Now, I don't know how well that strategy is working, because I see a lot of those Back to the Future figures just collecting dust. But that is the idea behind it, and why like a company like NECA is so desperate to have their product on Walmart and Target shelves. And when Toys R Us went out of business, I mean, it used to be Toys R Us was the main place. Salome, everybody, she's joined us. But Toys R Us used to be the main place that NECA sold their stuff. But when Toys R Us went out of business, NECA was SOL, and they had to basically find a way of getting their products on shelves at places like Target and Walmart, and that's where we are today. Manuel says, I hate Funko Pop. I'm not a fan either. But Funko Pops, you can't deny the popularity of them. They're cheap to make, and everybody from diehard collectors to just casual people buy them, which is why stores are so willing to carry those things in such large number. They're not my cup of tea. I don't personally get the appeal of them, but that's why they're so popular. Sam says the NECA stuff is now vendored and merchandised through Target directly now, and not NECA, which is why they are getting more stock buying with Spike and Baxter, Wave and Crank, and that's an improvement, because you're right. NECA used to, and it was the same at Toys R Us. They used to stock their own product, which kind of crazy, but this gets a little bit out of my expertise, but I'm guessing it's probably cheaper if NECA sends out their own people to stock the shelves than if the actual stores people have to stock the shelves and stuff. But the downside to that, with Toys R Us, it was much easier for NECA because there weren't as many physical Toys R Us stores out there that NECA had to send people to make sure that the stores kept stocked. But there's a lot more Targets and Walmarts out there and NECA just didn't have the manpower. They weren't a big enough company to have the manpower to send people out on a regular basis to all those different stores to make sure they're well stocked. That's why they started that ambassador program thing, where they were trying to essentially get you guys to monitor the shelves and let them know what needed to be stocked and everything. But I don't think that worked out too well. And if they've managed to make inways at Target, where Target is now stocking their stuff, that definitely probably is a reason why we're maybe starting to see more of the turtle stuff. But I'm sure that's, again, and I don't know specific numbers, but I'm guessing that probably adds an extra expense on NECA's end. Henry says, but NECA stuff at Target isn't even positioned where someone may just wander by to see it. Well, that's not true. NECA stuff is in the entertainment section of most Target stores. In fact, the casual adult is more likely going to go buy the NECA stuff than they would if it was in the toy aisle. Now, the main reason why that stuff's not in the toy aisle is because, like most of the McFarlane stuff and the NECA stuff, is more adult-oriented product, and especially like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Playmates Toys didn't want the NECA stuff sitting right next to their stuff in the toy aisle, so that parents might mistake the NECA stuff for their stuff and buy it. But also just the more adult nature of most of those figures that NECA and McFarlane make is why stores like NECA or Target essentially created a separate section in their entertainment area. And you may recall this, but back when Toys R Us was around, there was actually a big stink that certain parents groups made about NECA stuff being on the same aisle, these figures that had like blood on it and stuff being on the same aisle as the kids stuff. So Toys R Us, before they went out of business, actually ended up having to create its own dedicated aisle just to the NECA and stuff like that, because there were certain parent groups that were getting upset that their product was in the same area as the kid stuff, and they were like offended that they saw an action figure with blood on it or something. But it was actually in the news and stuff. It made national news and stuff. So it's kind of funny. But that's why that stuff's in a different section than the rest of the toys. Joshua, yes, I did get the Snake Eyes Fortnite. I I kind of I, I I feel like a sucker for paying $40 for the figure, but I just decided it was cool enough that I'd go on and pay the extra. I don't think it's worth $40, but I got it anyway. Bean says at $50 a pop, the Super 7 Ultimates figures are going to break the bank more so than you usually do. I agree, and I've held off on getting a number of the Super 7 Ultimate figures for that reason, that the price is just, I'm not saying it's not justifiable from a production standpoint, but at some point it doesn't matter. You can only afford so much, and eventually you just price yourself out of the market. That's to me what happened to the comic industry. Comic books, the prices of comic books just became so outrageous that it was just no longer feasible to collect them anymore. And I do see that happening with action figures as well. And the way that companies will try and cope with that is cut costs, which means they cut quality. It means they cut articulation. Again, going back to these 5 points of articulated figures, that's why companies love those, because they're cheaper to make, and therefore they can sell them cheaper, and more stores will be willing to carry them, and parents and such will be willing to buy them, and all that. But I do think we're heading, I don't have a time period of how long exactly it'll be, but I do see a point where essentially, regardless of how justifiable the costs are, they're going to, price themselves, the hobby's going to come to an end because people just either can't find the product or they're too expensive, and it's just no longer feasible for most of us to participate in the hobby anymore. The problem is, while I see that happening, I don't know a solution to stop it, because again, it's the prices aren't high because companies are just price gouging you. They are realistically high, but as I said, at the end of the day, for a lot of us, it doesn't matter how justifiable the price is. It's still out of our budget, and we get more selective. We become more choosier in what we get. I don't think there is anything, used to be a lot of these, lines had, what's called a completist. Somebody had to buy every single figure, no matter what, of that line because they were a completist. Well, my guess is there aren't many completists around these days in this hobby. When I started covering this stuff 20 years ago, there was a lot more completists than there are today. And as prices go up, I think people get choosier and choosier. And, like I said, it makes a small demographic just get smaller. Hey, Steven. Yeah, you're right. It was the Breaking Bad figures, I think, that caused such a stink. It's funny to me what sometimes people get outraged over, but I guess if I was a parent with young kids who saw that, I guess I'd be upset too. Coco says, I'll evolve and the cheapskates will leave. Yeah, but eventually there's not going to be enough of you big spenders out there, Coco, to support the hobby, so. Duma says there's no way I can afford the Thunder tank. I, it's I think that's cool. If you're there and you're just like I can't afford, if you literally just can't afford it, there's nothing wrong with that. Or even like I said, if I really wanted to, I could come up with $450 to buy the tank. But I'm sitting here contemplating whether that's the best way to spend $450, or whether I should spend it on other things. And another, as I mentioned earlier, space is another key thing about it. So, you know, can I easily spend $450 on one toy? No, I can't. And I just bought, in the past year, I bought Unicron, which that one is supposed to start shipping next month, and I'm still not sure where I'm going to put that one. I'm thinking I might hang it up in the ceiling in here, in its planet mode is kind of where I'm going, thinking for that one. But then there's the Razor Crest, and there's the Sentinel, and and Mike, I didn't get Snake Mountain from Super 7. It was really expensive, but I just didn't have the space for it. I think that Snake Mountain that Super 7 did is awesome. I see those pictures of it and I'm like drooling, but I don't have the space for it. So, if I can't find a cool place to display it, there's no point in buying it, or at least for me, that's how I see it. So, and I'm afraid that might be where the Thunder tank comes down, is I just don't know where I'm going to display it. And so do I really want to spend 450? But I think it's perfectly reasonable for somebody, if somebody, I've seen, oh, you're just being a cheap ass, buy it. No, not all of us have $450 to spend on a toy. And if you don't, and I would even put to you, like Super 7 is supposed to be offering some type of financing. I'm guessing it's probably going to be something like a layaway plan. I don't think they're actually offering actual true financing. But my feeling is if you can't really afford to outright buy something like that, you probably should hold off. If you really, if your money's that strapped, and I think that's perfectly understandable, especially in this day and age, but, you probably shouldn't buy it if you can't afford it. So, I don't think you shouldn't let anyone guilt you into buying anything like any of this stuff. Make your own decision, and, if you can afford it, great, but if not, that's cool too. Jerry says, stop giving away your super chats. You can get the tank. If you mean quit reading people's questions without them paying for it, yeah. If you guys want to donate a super chat, that's great. I view it as kind of like a tip jar thing, but I'm not going to make you. I can't necessarily read all the comments that go through the screen, but I'm not going to make you guys pay for me to read your comments or ask your questions. That kind of defeats the purpose of the live stream. Jerry says he doesn't know. Snake Mountain looks kind of plasticky for $600. Well, again, it is a hefty price tag, and that was one of the things that probably persuaded me not to get it. But I saw that in person at San Diego a couple years ago, and that thing just looked really, really cool. I've always liked Snake Mountain. I like Snake Mountain a lot better than I do Castle Grayskull. Like, I'd be much more. I'm not a diehard Masters of the Universe collector, so I don't have the big Castle Grayskull that Mattel did through Matty Collector. And that was, and I didn't get Snake Mountain. So I'm not a diehard Masters of the Universe collector, but I saw that thing in person, and I was drooling over it. And I think just Snake Mountain in general is a cooler playset than like Castle Grayskull. So I was tempted, and you could display your figures on that thing pretty good. So you could get a lot of figures on it and stuff. But just at the end of the day, I only had like one shelf that was going to even remotely hold that thing. And it would have been very difficult to clear the stuff that was on that shelf. So, like I said, I really wasn't going to have a good place to display it. And what's the point in paying all that money if you can't really display it well? So that was the deciding factor. But I thought it was cool looking. Again, when I'm truly sitting there going, okay, can I spend $600 on this, or can I buy like a bunch of things for $600? Those are considerations that go in well. And of course, there are other things outside of action figures. I just, me and my wife just paid a huge sum of money because we're replacing all the windows on our house with more energy efficient windows. Because we're tired of paying high energy bills. So, but so, there's things like that as well. So, again, don't let anyone try and guilt you into buying something. Again, I have little doubt that it will get funded, that there's enough people that will buy that thing. And, don't put yourself in hock trying to get a toy, is the best advice I could tell you. Doctor 5000 says the $40 Snake Eyes is just a repaint of with Fortnite accessories. For the most part, I think that head sculpt might be new, and there's Blake with another very generous donation, man. $100, I appreciate it, man. Blake is like my number one super chat donator, my number one fan, I guess, because I mean, dude's like donated since I've started doing these super chats. It's been like close to $1,000, I think, that you donated. So, love you, man. Have your Thunder Tank down payment. Thank you, I appreciate it. Classic Action Figure says, I gotta get the Thunder Tank now, no excuses. But let's not forget like all these Marvel Legends that are coming down the pike, and some of those have some pretty hefty price tags as well. I know we haven't talked about Marvel Legends much, and unfortunately I'm not ready to reveal anything more than I've already talked about or posted about on Marvelous News. But I am telling you that like those Infinity Collection listings, that whoosh. I don't. Some of you guys were giving me a hard time how to pronounce whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. I don't know, but those listings they put up on their message board the other week for those Infinity figures, those movie figures. I'm telling. I mean, I haven't seen them. I know what they are. I'm not. I can't tell you what they are right now, but I about 99.9% sure what they are. And I'll be honest with you. The reason why I'm not telling you what they are is I wasn't even going to talk about those. It's only because those listings popped up over on Fwoosh that I even reported about them, because once they're out on the internet, it's my job to report about them. But I wasn't going to talk about them because I feel like that is something that the guys at Hasbro, Dwight, and those guys should be able to reveal to you guys. So I don't always, sometimes they seem to like try and guilt us. Don't talk about, retail listings and stuff that leak out and stuff. And I'm like, I don't put much stock in that. But this is, in this particular case, is something where I feel like those guys deserve to be able to show it to you, tell you what it is and show it to you. I hope it's soon. I hope they don't sit on that for much longer. But in large part because, the listings have already shown up online, and it's probably only a matter of time before somebody figures out what they are. But I think they're going to be really cool. So, but they're also expensive. You've seen the prices, and so they're also expensive. So, and some of you might even have any idea what I'm even talking about. But Blake says we should do a massive Big Bad Toy Store giveaway sometime in the chat. 100 gift card. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely, I love doing the trivia contest where we give away the $100 store credit. So I definitely will do that again in the near future. And of course, just to throw a plug in, every month we give away $100 store credits to Big Bad Toy Store in both Toy News International and Big Bad Toy or Toy News International and Marvelous News on our message board. So if you're tired of sitting on Facebook or whatever and you want to go over, if you haven't already, and you register on those message boards, you get entered every time you post. You get entered for a chance to win a $100 store credit. We do it every month. So, but yeah, I will definitely, Blake. We will do another contest here on YouTube. In one of these live chats. Um, like I said, I have fun with the trivia contest, so we'll probably do that again. Leonardo says, Marvel Legends Power Pack, please. I can't, I can honestly tell you, I've seen no indication of Power Pack. That doesn't mean it couldn't happen, but I've not seen any indication of Power Pack. And do those kids ever freaking age? I mean, they're still kids, right? They were kids when I was kids, and they're still kids. Like, anytime they pop up in the comics, they're like still kids, aren't they? I think their power is immortality, that they're never going to age. It's whoosh, right? Like whoosh, like in the comics, whoosh. Until some of you even said something, I've never even, like, never sat there and really thought about the actual correct pronunciation of their website. Hell, lucky I'm even crediting a lot, no offense to some of these other YouTubers out there, but I see a lot of guys regurgitating like information that I've passed on to you guys here, and not one iota of credit to either Marvelous News or me. And I don't do this for credit or anything like that, but to me, it's, I always try and do give credit. Maybe I mispronounced the name or what have you, but I try, when credit's due, I try and give the credit. I may have missed your last comment, but saying you can help fund more. Well, I appreciate, I mean, any donation, any super chat donation, but, I will continue to do giveaways. You guys don't have to donate for me to do a giveaway. When I do a giveaway, it's really just like, I guess you're giving to me. It's just to say thanks for your support and everything. But, you know, my business managed to sustain enough that I, able to do, a contest here and there. So don't feel like you have to donate. You know, knock on wood. I don't have any wood nearby, but knock on wood. You know, I am doing okay. They said to me, when you guys donate, it's just, I mean, money's great, obviously, but it's just it's so gratifying to know that you guys, some of you are like, I guess, like what I do so much that you're willing to do that. So it's really more just, you know, it's like, people always say, "Oh, you're great, you're awesome, you're great, you're great," and that's all good too. I mean, when somebody, I mean, one of the best things, I don't, and I've talked about this before. Like, I don't consider myself a celebrity in any kind of way. I'm just a guy talking toys. Any of you could talk toys on camera just like I do. You might. I mean, been doing this 20 years, and so I go to these things like San Diego Toy Fair, before COVID, of course. But, I would every year for 20 years, I've been going to these events, San Diego, New York Comic Con, Toy Fair, and as you do that, and that, those things, it's costs money and stuff. But when you do that, you get to, talk with the people in the industry and stuff, and you build relationships and so on and so forth. So that's really the only probable difference between me and most of you, is that I've just been doing that for 20 years. But I don't consider myself really anything special. I don't consider myself a celebrity. If I have, I'm happy with, 50,000 subscribers, 57,000 subscribers. Would I like to get to 100,000 subscribers one day? So just so I can have a YouTube trophy? Sure. But it's not like my primary goal. Really, the only thing that frustrates me sometimes is that I wish more people, like when I'm giving information, I wish more people heard it. Just so, because it is frustrating to me when I go onto like a Facebook page and I see people like asking questions about things that I've talked about. Like if you had watched my video, or if you had gone over to the site and you had read the story, you would know the answer to your question. And that's always been my number one goal, is to try and inform you guys to the best of my ability. So I do get frustrated sometimes when I see people, obviously who haven't watched my videos or gone to the site or what have you, and they're like, oh, well, is this going to happen, or what's this, or what's that? But I'm not here to be an internet celebrity, internet YouTube celebrity, or what have you. And I could care less. I'm not an influencer. It's toy related, but I consider myself a journalist. I cover the world of action figure news, and that's what I've set out to do 20 years ago, and it's what I'm, doing now. And, YouTube is just another mechanism to be able to do that. But, I've been fortunate enough to be able to create a business model with advertising, online advertising on my websites, that's allowed me to sustain this as a living, as opposed to just being a fan. So, I do run a business, but my number one goal, is not to appease a toy company. It's not to be an influencer for them. It's to give you guys information. So hopefully all you guys know that come in on these super chats on a regular basis. Hopefully, you've come to realize that, but that is truly my goal with any of this. And obviously, I have to make enough money to be able to live, to buy groceries and things like that. But I don't expect to be a millionaire from doing this stuff. I don't expect to be famous. I don't expect, anything along those lines. So I'm rambling again. So, but thank you, Blake. Thank you, anybody who donates. Thank you all who watch on a regular basis. Especially you guys, not just these super chats, but you guys that come in and watch every video that I do, whether it's a review. And of course, less of you watch the reviews than you do the news videos. But, anytime you're coming in and watching, or if you go over to the sites and you read the news there, or even if we're just chatting on Facebook, I enjoy a lot of those conversations we have over on my Facebook page. So, it's really, that's what kind of, I know it's hard for some of you to believe, but I don't get a lot of respect from the toy companies themselves. We're just fan sites. So when you guys go out of your way to acknowledge that I'm doing something that's helping you in some small way. I realize, again, this is action figure. I'm not changing the world here, but if in some small way I'm helping, you in a way, then that's really what I find most gratifying. So again, really, thank you guys. And now, enough rambling. Let's get back to some questions. Though I'm probably going to wrap this up here. It's getting on to be 8:30. So Classic Action Figure says, I don't feature Salome enough. Yeah, I agree. She's the star of the show. She comes when she wants, though. Redneck Trekker says, get back into figure collecting about 4 years ago. I'm all about 6 inch, but I'm thinking of going back to 3 and 3/4 inch. They look really good nowadays and a lot easier on the wallet. I don't know. I'm torn. Well, I don't know which 3 and 3/4 inch you're talking about. There aren't as many 3 and 3/4 inch figures on the market as there used to be. And then oftentimes with the 3 and 3/4 inch, you tend to get these days less articulation. There are some good figures. I mean, I still collect when I can. I collect vintage collection for Star Wars. If they did new G.I. Joe 3 and 3/4 inch figures, I would collect them. I'm not really into buying the exact same, or virtually, with minor differences, the same figures I already have. But I would collect 3 and 3/4 inch G.I. Joe again if they started doing, totally new figures or characters that they hadn't done previously. Marvel Universe. I'm not into these retro 5 points of articulated figures. They're not my personal cup of tea. But if they did, brought back Marvel Universe articulated figures, I would be very interested in collecting those. I love 6 inch too. I've never understood why so many people, start fighting over scale. Like you can't do 3 and 3/4 inch. You can only do 6 inch or what have you. But I like both scales. So. But I do like articulation on my figures. I'm not really a fan of 5 points of articulated figures, so. '49ers says he wants a good Superman action figure. The first wave was bad. Didn't bother. I hope Todd just makes another one. I mean, yeah. I didn't think the first wave Superman was that bad, but not a lot different. I mean, it was very much on par with like the DC Essentials version. But I mean, eventually he'll probably do another Superman. There's those, Justice League McFarlane figures based on the Snyder cut that are supposed to be coming. So if you're into movie figures, you'll get a chance at Superman that way. I'm curious to see what those end up looking like. John wonders if they're going to make figures from the new Superman Lois TV series. I think that's a good possibility. We could probably see that. A lot will probably depend on how well the series itself does. Those CW shows seem to be struggling these days, so we'll see if Superman can revitalize that portion of the DC universe. Quinn Comics says Marvel Universe with the posability like G.I. Joe. Yeah, I thought the original Marvel Universe figures had pretty good articulation, but, a G.I. Joe style Marvel figure, I'd go for that. The early Marvel Universe figures, as the line started to reach its end, the articulation got kind of bad, but how many of you guys are excited for the Zack Snyder version of Justice League? I'm not sure if excited's the word I'd use. I'm curious. And again, because I have HBO Max, I will definitely watch it. I wouldn't get HBO Max just for that, but because I already have it, I will end up watching it. And like I said, I'm not sure if I'm excited, but I'm curious. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. I've heard something like the runtime on the movie is like 4 hours now. I find that hard to believe it's that long, but my main thing on that Justice League movie is if it's just like a one-off thing, like this is what it was supposed to be, and now we're done with it. We're done with essentially all this. then I'm kind of like, what's the point? If they used the Zack Snyder, if the Zack Snyder Justice League movie was good and they used it as kind of a relaunching point for the DC universe, then I would probably be more excited about it. But I haven't heard anything to suggest that. So I feel like it's just like a one and done thing. This is what it was going to be. And so you get to see it, but we're still kind of just going off into this totally different direction now. And so I don't know. I think I'm more interested in the Flash movie, which is, we're supposed to see Michael Keaton Batman Return, possibly, prelude to Batman Beyond. I think that's probably got me more excited about, the DC universe right now than, and I can see them using the Flash movie, the Flashpoint stuff to kind of reset the DC universe. So, and maybe they'll tie in together. I don't know, but I think probably the Flash movie has got the best chance of kind of really getting me back into being interested in the DC universe. Because like that last Wonder Woman movie, just I mean, it wasn't horrible, but it was not great in any way. And what about WandaVision? I won't talk spoilers here, but I was not too happy with the first three episodes. As in, I just thought they were pretty boring. Um, but but this past Friday's episode four, definitely, and I knew, or I had a pretty good feeling that things would get better, which is why I stuck with it. Yeah, if it wasn't a Marvel show, I would have quit watching after episode two. But I knew that more was coming, and this was just kind of a build up. I feel like they could have done that build up in two episodes instead of three, but I knew it was coming, so I kept watching it. And I think we're finally starting to get a bit of a payoff with episode four. So I'm looking forward to what they end up doing. And I have to laugh. Like every time I go on either YouTube or like Instagram, I see these these theories pop up about like, is it Mephisto that's pulling all the strings, or I mean, they've just been coming out of the woodwork, and I don't think they're based on anything real. It's just people's speculation, but the theories have been off the chart of like who's pulling the strings and all that kind of stuff. I don't Another thing I don't like about WandaVision, I don't like the 30-minute. I don't like, I get, because they were doing the whole sitcom thing, but I don't like, you know, it would be nice if these were hour episodes as opposed to 30-minute episodes. CM Brock says we'll get to see Martian Manhunter and Darkseid. I know we're going to be seeing Darkseid. I didn't know Martian Manhunter was going to be popping up. I didn't hate the original Justice League movie as much as some of you guys did. I think the thing I didn't like the most about it was like you had all this build up in the movie, right? Throughout the movie, and then like Superman comes along and kicks the bad guy's ass in 2 seconds. The only reason why he didn't kick the bad guy's ass even sooner is because he got distracted and had to go do something. And then he came back and kicked the bad guy's ass in like seconds. So I felt like the payoff was just kind of weak because Superman just outclassed, the bad guy. So I guess if they're bringing Darkseid into it in some way, though, my understanding is, Darkseid's really only got a very minor appearance. So it's not like I feel like we're going to see Superman square off against Darkseid. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But that was really my biggest complaint about the original cut of the Justice League was it was just like once Superman was brought back to life, this guy was, they built this guy up as this totally badass guy, and then Superman just comes along and kicks his ass in 2 seconds, and I just like, yeah, okay. Damien says, I see Kevin Smith mentioning his Masters of the Universe cartoon series is due for a news update later in the week. Looking forward to this. Are you? I did not see. I assume he tweeted that. I missed that. So, but yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more or seeing more for the Kevin Smith Masters of the Universe series. So, yes, if in fact we're gonna get something on that, that would be great. I wasn't as impressed with the second season of Transformers on Netflix. I did not like the second season as much. I felt like really didn't get much. It didn't really push the story along that much. So I was a little. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but I was a little disappointed in the second season of Transformers. It wasn't as good as the first season, and it was so dark. I wish they would lighten the colors up a little bit. Like it gets hard to see, be able to tell whose character is who because it's so dark. Especially since a lot of them all look the same. Right. I mean, Steppenwolf just like, I don't know. He was just a disappointment to me. All right. It's almost quarter to 9, so I think we're going to wrap it up today. But I do once again appreciate all you guys who tuned in. Uh, Super chat donations always greatly appreciated from all of you, whether it's $100 or $2. Um, I really appreciate it. So thanks again. I will, as we go into February, I will try and do live streams on a more regular basis. Hopefully, the world, just the craziness in general in the world, will settle down a little bit, and we can do more of this. And I mean, January also it just kind of started out slow news wise. As we got past the holidays, and then we had to go through, the stuff with the inauguration and all that. And news was just kind of slow for the first part of the month, and then things have picked up definitely in the last few weeks. And I suspect, February, where again, I'm not really expecting like a one central of toy fair event, but I am expecting, toy companies to start picking up their announcements and their reveals. Um, we've got a Marvel Legend reveal tomorrow. I will tell you, I will give you a hint. It will make you green with envy. So I think it will go up around either. Normally they're 12, but like last time it went up at 1, so I'll have to check. But somewhere in that neighborhood of 12 noon to 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time is when it should go up. Um, and of course, we'll have coverage of it when it goes live. We'll have coverage of it on Marvelous News. And then I probably will end up doing a news video probably tomorrow, a regular news video, um, and share the info with you. Though I'm sure by that point I always wonder with like the news videos, it's like because everything that I talk about in the news videos always gets reported first on the websites, and lots of people are passing it all around social media. So I always figure that by the time I'm talking about it in the news video, you guys have probably already been made aware of it. But again, Marvel Legend reveal tomorrow. Green with envy is your clue. So, and I think it's going to be a cool one. I think this is one people are going to dig. So, and then I'm hoping that Hasbro announces like a Marvel Fan Friday live stream event here soon, like maybe even as soon as next Friday. I'm just that's completely just a hope on mine. They did Star Wars this past Friday, so I'm hoping maybe this coming Friday they'll do a Marvel one. But if not this coming Friday, then hopefully very in the near future, because there is a lot of Marvel Legends stuff, and they really need to start getting some reveals out there officially. But yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. We'll do it again soon. And until next time, Me and Salome here. We'll catch you later. Never has the same effect when I gotta go over here and hit.
Hey, thanks for watching today's video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification so alerted every time I upload a new video. And be sure to head over to the Toy News International and Marvelous News Message Boards communities. It's a great place to talk toys and win cool contests like $100 store credits to Big Bad Toy Store. And remember, action figures are great!